Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Monday, June 23rd. This is episode 206. 206. It's a lot.
206.
Zach Hedrick filling in for Don and Chuck today. Chuck on vacation. Don out in New York, probably on the plane right now. Out there
The
somewhere.
knowledge base has dropped considerably.
But it's all right. It got a lot better looking. So here we are.
That's also debatable.
There's more hair. There's more hair here.
Well, yeah.
Your hairline much better than each of theirs. So
This episode brought to you by Rogaine.
yeah, exactly.
Who's got the better hair between you guys?
I think he has a better hairline. I don't know.
He's
We
got
both got pretty good lettuce up
Yeah.
there. Both better than Don and Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm due for a cut.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting shaggy.
We'll get you there. It's all right. Anyway, subscribe to the YouTube channel, News 4 Fox SA. Download, rate, review the podcast version wherever you get your podcasts if you feel so inclined. All basketball today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast, as it should be, with the finals ending last night. Congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder for winning Game 7 against a Tyrese Haliburton-less Indiana Pacers. Pacers
For 3 quarters.
Yeah, 3.5. They came out hot. The Pacers came out hot, and Haliburton now is confirmed torn ACL. So
That just sucked.
that was. I want to focus on the Thunder, but God,
Sure.
that sucked.
Yeah, no, it's still credit to the Thunder. They got over the hump, finally.
Finally, yeah. Sonics, now Thunder, in the second iteration of their big three, without what they did about 12 years ago with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden and Serge Ibaka and all those guys.
Those were
Kendrick
fun
Perkins.
teams.
Those were really fun teams, especially because they lost to my Miami Heat. But whatever. But no, Tyrese, like, you got to feel really bad for him. But we'll get into all of that. Plus, the Spurs are hoping to replicate the blueprint that the Thunder have put together. So we'll see, kind of what that timeline looks like and talk about how the Spurs can get back to the mountaintop, even though they're following a blueprint of a team that they're going to have to go through. So that's going to be pretty difficult for them to do. Plus, it's officially draft week. I don't have NBA chimes. I don't actually know if they're different, but I'll play the NFL chimes for everybody. Spurs are going to be going 2-14. So what's the latest buzz on those two? And Kevin Durant officially will not be a San Antonio Spur. The Suns sending KD to the Rockets. Good move, bad move. Should the Spurs have stepped up their offer? We'll talk about all of that. But we want to start with the NBA Finals, finishing up last night. 103-91. The Thunder beat the Pacers and cover the spread. One of the best spread covering teams in the NBA. Every single game they stepped on a court this year. We're never an underdog this year. So that's a feat in and of itself.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the game? Thoughts on the Thunder? Just general overview?
It looked real competitive between both teams, and really Indiana hung in there with them even after Haliburton's injury for a while. It just it looked like they ran out of steam. I think playing on their home court also gave OKC that atmosphere. Having gone to some of those playoff atmospheres when I was interning at one of the stations up there in OKC, it's really fun. So I can't imagine what a Game 7 atmosphere was like. But yeah, I mean, you kind of summed it up. Their point differential always favor. I mean, this team won 68 games. They would just blow people out of the water. So they kind of, their depth and just all the guys firing on cylinders, they kind of flexed their muscle last night.
Yeah, I mean, as an Oklahoma grad, it's not too far from Oklahoma City. So the Thunder are really the only game in town besides Oklahoma football and some of the other college sports. So what's that atmosphere like, and what do Thunder fans, what have they been clamoring for this entire time?
Yeah, no, I remember going to classes and stuff like that, and if, somebody showed up with a playoff shirt on, the following day from one of the games, it's like, oh, my gosh, what was the game? Everybody's wanting to talk about that. It really is. Yeah, it's similar to here in San Antonio, where it's just like the Spurs, the only pro team in town. Oklahoma football kind of takes over when the fall rolls around, but before that, once the Thunder get going in the fall, late, everybody starts getting ready for that too. So, it's a fun atmosphere. Just fun that everybody kind of rallies around that team and stuff. So, it's a neat vibe.
You see that a lot in college towns too. It's like Lawrence, Kansas, the only game in town. So
Sure.
everyone's going to go to the Kansas basketball games
Yep.
and football games and stuff like that. You see that in Tempe, even though there's a lot of stuff. I mean, you see that in Arizona as well, down in Tucson. They're really the only game in town besides the Suns, who are out in Phoenix, about an hour and a half away. So I feel like that's probably more of a collegiate atmosphere in Oklahoma City.
A little bit. And just, I think kind of everybody still remembers maybe that pain of getting to the finals. They really thought KD and Westbrook were going to get them there, and they did. I mean, they were bashing their head up against the ceiling several times. It just they never could quite find that little extra X factor to get it over. And now with, I mean, shoot, you got SGA and J-Dub. It's just like, this team is loaded.
Did you see after the final game or after the game last night where they all went into the locker room, and apparently there's reports they only opened like 8 bottles of champagne.
They didn't know how to.
No one knew how to open a bottle of champagne, so Alex Caruso had to teach them how to open it.
Dagnall's probably doing ID checks and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was I think it was Cason Wallace or Jalen Williams, who like took his first sip of beer and it was just like, oh God. It was really like wholesome and hilarious.
And until recently, Oklahoma did not have good beer. The whole thing.
Well, they
college
didn't last
story.
night either. It was
You're
Michelob
right.
Ultra.
So. Well, at OU, it was just, it was still 3-point beer. So it was whenever somebody was going down to Texas to get 6-point, that was, it's like, hey, people would take orders a little bit, to load up a little so you could get the good stuff.
It was wholesome and hilarious how just absent everybody was from the drinking angle of all of this. It was everyone's first experience.
Good, clean fun.
Yeah, Rachel Nichols went on one of a show today and was like, I've never seen a locker room after a championship so quiet. Like, I was like, okay, well, I guess that's good for them. Anyway.
To each their own.
To each their own. Want to talk about Haliburton real quick before we get back to the Thunder. That was probably the most brutal and heartbreaking moment that we've seen in a while. Like, Jason Tatum obviously tore his earlier this playoffs, and I didn't feel as bad because he's already done it. He's already made it to the mountaintop. He's already battled through injury. He's already done all these trials and tribulations. This was Tyrese Haliburton's really first chance to go to a Game 7 in an NBA Finals. You might never get this chance again. Start off hot as fish grease, coming out 3 for 4 from 3, 9 points, no assists, no rebounds in the first 6 minutes, and then it's all just gone in a flash.
Yeah, really, you feel for him because I think everybody knew what had happened without even hearing a confirmed diagnosis.
He knew what happened.
Yeah, no, you see him like pounding the court, shouting, no, 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 no. You hate to see that, just a guy that had an incredible run through all rounds, making these game-tying or game-winning shots and everything. You hate to see that in a winner-take-all because you want it to just be even across the board. Everybody's got their horses to just see, okay, may the best team win. But, yeah, maybe there's something to the jersey number because I saw something, too. It was like Dame Lillard, Jason Tatum, and now Tyrese.
Never
zero.
wear 0.
Yeah, don't be a 0. Don't find another number, I guess.
Yeah, it was just like after starting out so hot and everything he tried to battle back through, and then you see him know it instantaneously. Yeah. As soon as he hit the ground, he was pounding the floor, and they came over, and you could read their lips and his saying, "Did you tear it?" And he said, "I did." And it was just like, and then they kept playing the replay of the pop. And I'm like, you don't have to show it anymore. We get it. It's done.
When you see the shock wave go up the leg,
the ripple through the calf.
Yeah, it's never good. It was all out Aaron Rodgers where you watch it and you go, yeah, okay. Yeah, don't have to attend any kind of medical school to kind of maybe guess at what's going on.
Yeah, so he'll be out 9 to 12 months at least, and then it takes a lot of time just to get more comfortable on a basketball court. So he might be out the entirety of next season, which is devastating for Tyrese Haliburton.
Yeah.
Also, just a point of personal privilege here. The way too early power rankings for next year came out on ESPN. The Thunder are obviously first.
Sure.
It really, really bugs me that the top 2 finals teams, the teams that just played in the finals, aren't 1-2. The Pacers are at like 6. They put the.
Do they take it into account? Yeah, I mean Haliburton's likely gone.
Maybe, but like they're behind the Knicks and the Cavs, who they just beat in the last 2 rounds of the NBA Finals, and you put the Pacers down at 6. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. Maybe those guys know something we don't. More moves being made. I mean, we saw KD go to Houston, so there's another team in the Western Conference that the Spurs are going to have to bust through. So
yeah, but it just never makes any sense to me how that happens. As far as the Thunder go, they're now the 7th different team to win a championship in the past 7 seasons, kind of showing the parity that we all have right now on top of, I think it was the Nuggets, the Celtics. I don't want to go through all of them, but 7th different team after that Warriors dynasty, which came after the Spurs dynasty, which came after the run by the Heat, which came after the run by the Lakers. Like, what does that say about where the NBA is right now?
Well, I look at across professional sports, I think everybody sees what the NFL is doing, where it's parity is king. So it's like, well, we want that as well. Mm-hmm. And it's NBA and NFL, they have those guardrails where it's like it's tough to keep these teams together just because of salary cap and max contracts and all that kind of stuff. Not too many guys are going to go, yeah, let me take less money so we can all stay together. That ain't going to happen in this day and age. So, I think the Thunder, just especially with Sam Presti pulling the strings, they could, keep these guys together, because it's like you can sit everybody down and say, hey, look, here's where this is headed. Just let's stay the course, and hey, we're gonna bring a couple more trophies here.
Yeah, you've got rookie extensions coming up for SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren over the next 2 to 4 years, and so you're gonna have to kind of work the cap a bit. But they have the good thing about how the Thunder have built their team is that they have so many draft assets to continue to fill in those gaps.
Bring in new guys.
Exactly.
Now you still got to
become a veteran team eventually.
Right. You got to hit on those draft picks too. It's not always a given, but who knows? Nikola Jokic is a 2nd round pick. Manu Ginobili, same thing too. It's just sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't.
Well, they have 2 first-round picks this week. They have 2 first-round picks.
The rich
on
get
Wednesday,
richer, right?
And then they have a guy, Nikola Topic, who they drafted last year, who was injured all season. He's the first player in NBA history to win an NBA title without playing in an NBA game, and so they have him that'll be returning next season. And then next draft, they have potentially 4 first-round picks. So it's like,
jeez,
You look at how to build a team, and Sam Presti has basically just put on a masterclass of how to build something that is sustainable and can be built up. And so now you look at how the Spurs are trying to build their team, and all we've heard is we're not skipping steps. Yeah. We're going to keep building this thing brick by brick. Is this a model that can be replicated?
I think it can be, but only so many teams can do it. Like OKC, the Spurs have the draft assets to do it, to where they can just sit back and say, hey, we'll just bide our time. We'll keep, bringing on a guy here and there when it makes sense. Everything's got to just fit just right, and it starts from the GM to the head coach through the players, 1 through 12, 1 through 15, whatever it is. Everybody's got to be in agreement with, this is the master plan, and we're not going to deviate from it.
Yeah, and the fans have to be on board. I guess be on board and be patient as well. I mean, the Spurs haven't made the playoffs in 6 years, and I think people are starting to get a little restless.
Sure.
Let's go. Let's get this thing back together. Let's get this train back on the tracks. And then you see and hear the similarities between Brian Wright and what Sam Presti are saying, which we'll hear right now. And it's like, this is where we're going. This is where we want to get to. Just stay with us for a little bit longer.
A little more patience.
This is what Sam Presti had to say 4 years ago in 2021 about building this team. This is about a year after the Paul George trade.
We can't be reactionary or emotional about it. We just have to keep chipping away every single day, knowing that over time we'll achieve our goals if we have the poise, the patience, and the willingness to adjust to the setbacks that we, will inevitably encounter. As they say, shortcuts cut long runs short, and we're going to do everything in our power not to allow that to happen. And when we do get back to the postseason, we want it to be an arrival and not an appearance. And arrival meaning that we can return, we can be there, we can take some chance or bad fortune and not have it sink us completely. We've seen the benefit of that, and during our earlier years, we don't want a position where we get there, but we have no way to get back. And that's the focus and the precision with which we're working.
Shortcuts make long runs cut short is a hell of a line.
Yeah.
First and foremost. But that sounds extremely similar to things we hear the Spurs say.
Sure.
And
well, something right at the beginning of that bite, chipping away at the rock. What is that? That's straight from the book of Pop, right? I mean,
Exactly.
come on.
And this is GM Brian Wright last year after the first round of the NBA draft, almost a year ago today, when they took Steph Castle. This is what he had to say.
I think the decisions you make over time around your flexibility, around the adaptability with ways with which you can build, we've been pretty consistent with that. And we will. Like I said, we want to build something that's sustainable, and you got to build it brick by brick. And, we hope to do that. But I think all the decisions that we made to this point have been under that premise, and we'll keep going with that.
When fans ask, where's this team going, and they look at 4, and which you guys are doing at 8, what you do tomorrow at 35 and 48. When it comes to asset management, what would you say to fans that are like, why are we stockpiling all these picks? Why are we making the decisions that we're making?
Because typically it's a pretty good strategy. So we'll try to continue to make sound decisions with whatever we do. And we want to continue to improve the team. We know that we've got a great runway here. We've got some great young talent, and we look to build around them in the right way.
I cut that Brian bite, and I have listened to it probably 4 or 5 times today. I didn't realize until right now that was me asking the question, the first question or the second question. But anyway, you might as well have just had the same PR team write each of those. Like, they're the exact same thing. They're building their team the exact same way. And you look at what the Spurs have stockpiled, and they have the ability to do it because of what they've accomplished in the DeJounte Murray trade, in the Jakob Poeltl trade, in all of these trades, in the Kawhi Leonard trade. Everything that they've done for the past 7-8 years has led them to this moment where the model that in the blueprint that they're trying to replicate has finally come to fruition, and now it's their turn to kind of be that next wave.
Yeah. The fan mindset, it's always now. Like, let's win now. But the guys at the top of these organizations, especially, when you've had as much continuity as the Spurs have had with Pop and R.C. Buford and Brian Wright, it's like they're playing the long game.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, I credit them to, I'm sure they hear all the outside stuff and they want, they feel maybe the pressure from the fans, but they can kind of squeeze all that out, and just say they look inward and stay in the bubble, and they go, okay, what's the best move for us to make sure that we're, like Sam Presti was saying, it's not a presence, it's an arrival, and we're there year after year after year after year.
Speaking of an arrival, the Mike Breen's call at the end of the game last night, the Thunder have taken the league by storm. Just chef's kiss.
The guy's good, right?
He's so good. Everything else about ESPN's pre and post is horrible. Actually, SVP is great. ESPN does a horrible pregame show, but Mike Breen will never be horrible. The Spurs, you look at like how a team is built, and there's no worse place to be in the NBA than in the middle, because you get the middle draft picks. You're never good enough to get to the mountaintop, but you're never bad enough to bottom out.
Right.
And the Heat have done that for so long, where they're just good enough to make the playoffs, but then you get eliminated in the first or second round. There's a lot of teams that want to be good enough to make the playoffs, but are never good enough to capture lightning in a bottle that much and make it through the rigors of an NBA postseason and get to the NBA Finals. The Spurs did what a lot of teams refuse to do, which is, we're going to suck for a few years. And eventually, we're going to hopefully get this to a point where we can be good for the next 15 to 20. And then maybe we'll suck again for 5. But we're going to build something that is sustainable and that gives us a chance to win every year, instead of giving us a chance to win out of every 10 years.
Yeah.
And the Thunder did that the same way. And so I think that is that the new model, I guess, is the question, instead of trading for all 3 of the superstars and then trying to win in 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Each team is going to look at it through their prism and everything. Even when you do bottom out, it's not a given that you're going to get one of those top picks because of the lottery and stuff like that. I mean, Spurs moving up to 2, that was, again, it's just fortuitous that the ping pong balls bounce this team's way.
Yeah, the Spurs have gotten extremely lucky, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, is that when they traded for De'Aaron Fox, I think that was their, okay, we're ready to take the next step move.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I don't even think in their wildest dreams they thought they were going to get 2, that they were going to be in the position that they're in right now to draft another dynamic talent in Dylan Harper. And so in a weird roundabout way, fans are kind of getting what they want by accelerating the timeline because the Spurs got extremely lucky once again in the lottery to get this talent that maybe they were going to get a Kimon Malawach at 10 or at 8, but now they get a Dylan Harper instead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes it in a roundabout way, you're kind of getting a little bit what you asked for.
We got a
Bob.
question. Yeah, we got a question from Lem the King, actually. He said,
What's up,
I'm
Brooklyn?
excited to
El
see
Rey.
what we do. What?
El Rey, the king, Spanish.
There you
Oh,
go.
is that what that is?
It's
Yeah.
not El Jefe.
No. Well, that's,
That's
the
the
boss.
pres-
That's the boss.
Yeah,
That's
there you
like the
go.
Don. That's the Spanish mob.
He said, I'm excited to see what we do with the 14th pick. Is there like any name floating around out there or anything that people are thinking the Spurs might be after?
You know, Bob, if you looked at the rundown, we would be getting to that here in a little bit.
Lem, hold on. Hold on, Lem. We
Wait
got
for
some
five
more.
Stay,
minutes.
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We're going to talk about the
Is
draft
that on
here.
page 2?
It's on
We
page
call
th-
that in-
It's on page 3.
That in the industry. That in the industry is called a tease.
It's a deep tease a little bit. We're going to get there. I want to talk about KD real quick, and then we're going to get to the draft. Kevin Durant is officially not going to be a San Antonio Spur. If you listen to Bob, or if you listen to Don, not Bob. I try not to listen to Bob.
No.
If you listen to Don, it was never going to happen, and they never budged off of a certain price point that they were going to budge on. Houston did budge a little bit. They're going to trade. They traded for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, number 10 on Wednesday, and 5 second-round picks. Do you wish that the Spurs offered up to their offer a little bit to try and get him, or no?
I don't know. I think they are, again, sticking to their plan. They made an offer. Phoenix didn't like it. It's like, all right, fine. Again, they're holding all the cards. They can, they've got all the leverage, whatever cliche. I think of it like fishing. It's like the Spurs know where all the good spots are. And they've got a prime spot in that little cove where they know all the fish are going to bite and everything. And all these other boats are coming by. And they're seeing the Spurs. They're like, damn, they got the good spot again.
Got to wake up earlier.
Right. So it's just like, Spurs are just going, okay, we're going to make sure we get the right play. It's like, yeah, we may catch a fish here and there, but then it's like, nope, we're going to let that one go and make sure we get the really good one that's going to make sure we come back and, we're making these, like we keep talking about, these runs that are going to last 5-10 years, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, Spurs fans in general, I think, are just, I mean this in the kindest way possible, just we're a little spoiled about the 20 years of success that you had for so long. And now you want that every year, and it just doesn't happen every year. It's because it never happened before, and they want it to happen again, but you have to go through these years of leanness to get there. I think that KD could have helped, but not at but we always said not at the price of a number 2 or of Stephen Castle.
It would have helped in the immediate, next 2 years, right? But then after that, when he's 39, what then? And then it's like, okay, cool. We got him for 2 years. Now what?
Yeah.
So
the Spurs want young players who can switch everything, who can trap, who can be interchangeable on the wing, and because that's exactly what the Thunder have. Mm-hmm. They have Lou Dort. They have Jalen J-Dub. They have Shea. They have all these guys 10 deep off the bench that can all come in and make a difference. That's what the Spurs want to have.
they have Isaiah Hartenstein, who does all the dirty work down low.
That's what the Spurs need. And Isaiah Hartenstein, who I don't know if he knows how to hold his son or if he was distracted. But
Did you see somebody going
like
in
holding
trying
his
to
head for him?
push the head?
Well, because he was zoinked, dude. You remember whenever I see after a championship, like someone holding their kid, I always think of Drew Brees, just because that's like a formative memory in my head of when Drew Brees was holding his son, I think it was his son, after they won the Super Bowl, and he's got the headphones on because to protect his ears because it's so loud in there. And then you see Hartenstein's son just zoinked out with no headphones on. It's just like, whatever, bro. He's out. That kid, like, props to him. I wish I could sleep like that, just anywhere and anytime.
Yeah,
but
no joke.
anyway, let's get to the draft. So, Len the King, we're getting there. We're down just 2 days away from the NBA draft. All indications are right now that the Spurs are going to draft Dylan Harper at 2. to pay off the tease, I'm going to go to 14 first, and then we'll get to Dylan Harper at 2. So the not rumor, but the latest mock draft I saw from ESPN has the Spurs taking Joan Behringer, center out of Civita Olimpica, foreign-born player. He's about a 7-footer. He's grown about 1.5 inches in the last 3 or 4 months, apparently. He's very young. And I think that we've all been saying they need size and shooting, and that would fill the size need at least at 14. So whether it's him or Maxime Reynaud or Cockbrenner from Creighton, they're going to get a center in this draft. We just don't know exactly where. Is there anyone else you would like to see them get at 14, or is there a position that you would like to see somebody target at 14?
Yeah, it's probably a big. I don't know if you're going to get, the quality of shooter that you would like. Everybody throws out Con Knippel.
He's going to go top 5.
That's like the dream, but who knows? I think 14 is going to be really interesting to see what happens on Wednesday night, because maybe another team comes along that is itching to move up, and they throw a package at the Spurs that the Spurs go, all right, yeah, bet, let's deal.
Just like last year with Dillingham.
Exactly. So again, it's like they hold all the chips, so it's just like they can let the other teams come to them. And if nobody blows them away, then it's like, all right, we'll pick our guy. Hopefully, it's somebody that, is not as much of a project, somebody that they can throw into the mix right away. I don't know if there's a player like that at 14. I don't know enough, and I'm not going to pretend to know enough to say that there is someone there at that spot.
Yeah, my theory is still that they're going to take 14 and move up instead of moving back. If there's a player that they obviously have higher on their board that they want to draft at 8, 9, 10, something like that,
sure.
You have all these assets, and you're not going to trade from 14 to 3.
Right.
You're going to trade from 14 to 10.
Yeah.
11, 8, 9, somewhere around there.
And that's what I meant by like trade. Maybe they move back, maybe they move up.
Yeah.
They might do something with it. I think that's going to be the fascinating thing.
Yeah, I would say if I was to put odds on it, I would say there's at least a 51% chance or greater that the Spurs do not stick with the player that goes at 14. They're going to either move up, move back, do something along those lines to get the guy that they really want. So maybe that is Joan Behringer from Europe. I mean, maybe that is a Maxime Reynaud. Maybe that is a Cockbrenner. Maybe that is a maybe they trade up for a Kaman Malawach. You need a center and you need shooting.
Yeah.
So they're going to fill one of those needs with that 14th pick. We just don't know if they're going to trade up, back, or anywhere else. As far as number 2 goes, Dylan Harper is going to go number 2.
Yeah.
That is every indication that there is out there. Every
unless
report
something completely crazy happens.
Yeah, unless somebody offers you like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for number 2,
right?
You're going to take Dylan Harper at number 2.
Yeah.
Where do you think that puts the Spurs as you kind of look forward now?
It gives them options, I think, for the future, because, it's like, now let's give Dylan Harper some run, with Stephon Castle and Victor Wembanyama. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, so then that way you can see what you have. Of course, it all hinges, too, on re-signing De'Aaron Fox and stuff like that, and everybody goes, okay, now you're guard heavy, but then it's just like, well, who's not to say that Fox gets moved or something a couple years down the line or something like that? Because if you really like what you have in Harper and Castle, it's like, well, let's go with the younger guys than the guy that's going to be turning 30 here in a couple years. And I like De'Aaron Fox a lot. I think he's, going to help teach these young guys a lot, very much like Chris Paul did. This roster keeps getting younger because, it doesn't seem like Chris Paul is coming back. I would like to see Harrison Barnes stick around just because he's, a pro's pro through and through.
He's fantastic.
Kind of epitomizes the Spurs way, and I think he's, would be a great mentor again for a very young team. Just so, hey, you want to get to the next level? Here's how you do it. Here's how you go about it, and here's what you need to do.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised that it's going to be Dylan Harper, and that it doesn't seem like the Spurs are itching to make any huge trades because it's like
they know what they
know what they have, and I think they value the players that are on this roster a lot more than the public values their players. Like Devin Vassell has been a guy who's been rumored to be dangled, I'll just say, out there in trade rumors for a long time, and I think a lot of people, including myself and including Don, have said that Devin is not the long-term solution at wing, and maybe he's one of the movable pieces along with KJ or a Jeremy Sohan, as long as you're not touching that core 3 or 4. I think the Spurs view their team much differently, where they have a Devin Vassell is a good, solid, starting caliber player in this league, and he is a versatile wing who can guard a lot of positions, who has gotten a lot better on the three-point line and can make his own shot when absolutely necessary.
Yep.
Same with Jeremy. He's a versatile guy. He can play 5 through 1. Well, maybe not 1. He can play 2 through 5. We tried the 1 position. That didn't really work. His shooting has gotten a lot better. He now shoots free throws with 2 hands. He's improving. He's improving a lot more than I think we give him credit for. So now that the Spurs are going to get Dylan Harper and maybe 1 or 2 other guys in this draft with their 14th pick and with 35, now they have that core to try and be like, okay, what do we have now? So now they move forward and give this team a year with Dylan Harper and with Steph Castle, and hopefully everyone stays healthy and Wemby's healthy and Fox is healthy, and you're like, okay, this is our baseline. So that's what I think that the Spurs are looking at. I mean, you look at all the ages for these guys. Wemby's 21. KJ's 25, Castle's 20, Fox is 27, Jeremy's 22, Devin's 24. Devin's been in the league for like 6 years. He's 24 years old.
Crazy.
KJ's been in the league for 6 or 7 years. He's 25 years old.
Right.
Dylan Harper isn't even 20 yet. Like
all those one and dones.
Yeah, all those one and dones. So like that's a pretty damn good young core.
Yeah.
To have. I mean, the problem is that now that you're trying to copy OKC's blueprint, you have to go through OKC.
Yeah, and I know, like you were saying, it's okay, let's evaluate and see what we have and everything like that. And I know maybe it's kind of like the all shucks, well, yeah, we came up short, but, okay, we're taking steps and not skipping steps and all that, stuff that we've kind of been hearing for the past couple of years. I'm really anxious to just see, it's like, yeah, evaluate what you have, but man, just let it hang, go out and ball and just here's how you get to the next step. Just win. Just go out and, who cares if you make a mistake, figure it out on the fly. And then, okay, like just be competitive.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
I think that this week between the draft and between the NBA finals and kind of a assurance that this is a model that works, the Spurs and Brian Wright and Spurs fans are in a very, very good spot no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So you expect any surprises on Wednesday?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't think there's going to be any big shockers or anything like that. Sure, you're going to have the draft night trades and stuff like that, just people moving up and down here and there, but I don't think there's going to be anything earth-shattering. The big domino was KD, right? Mm-hmm. They moved that. We kind of the guy out in Phoenix, I think,
Gambo.
Yeah, he was saying, it's going to happen before draft. Well, it did.
Yeah.
So now it's like, now that's done. It's just, okay, let's have the draft. We'll start summer league, and then a couple weeks from now, let the free agency wheeling and dealings begin.
I mean, they can start negotiating with their own free agents, rookie free agents today, and then I think free agency begins on Sunday.
Okay, so there you go. I just know, I remember because I said it last night, it's like the official start of the league year isn't until like
something like that.
So
it's the what is it? It's the legal tampering window that opens on the biggest oxymoron.
The
biggest oxymoron in the world.
Talking to each other anyway.
Bob, anything else?
Lem just had a comment that basically what he's saying is that Jeremy's jump shot is so much better over the offseason that everyone's going to be surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like these guys just need time to figure it out sometimes, and they're far from finished products when they arrive here. It's the same thing for Harper. I'm sure everybody's going to be like, everybody's touting him as being a potential all-star for multiple years and stuff like. Well, he's going to be like Castle a little bit, where he's going to need some time to figure some things out.
Yeah, exactly. Rookies don't come in as finished products
unless your name is LeBron or Kobe. Absolutely. And even then, they had to.
LeBron had to get embarrassed by the Mavs in the finals to finally figure out what it takes to win. So that's all we got for you today on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, use a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Draft day is on Wednesday. We'll be back to talk about all of it on Thursday. See you then.